Hi there, it's Tristan here. Today's topic is going to be on are millennials the most stressed generation? And survey says yes so far. So to start off this presentation, we're going to talk about some misconceptions about millennials. A very common misconception about millennials is that they complain a lot about the world problems and issues at hand, as well as that they're very lazy and not good workers. A lot of people also think that millennials are overly sensitive and don't handle constructive criticism very well, when sometimes that's not always the case because it's hard to compare generations between each other. So let's define the generations. So baby boomers are people born between 1946 and 1964, post-World War II. Generation X would be people born 1965 to 1976. Millennials, also known as Generation Y, who we'll be talking about today, are born anytime between 1977 to 1995. And most of us would be part of Generation Z, or also called Centennials, born 1996 to born current day. It is really hard to classify these generations because sometimes, people like that are born in 1997 might relate more to millennials than people who are born in present day. Four major causes of millennial stress are unemployment, debt and finances. Millennials tend to be more aware of issues, and climate change. American millennials were just starting to enter the workforce at the worst economic crash since the Great Depression, making it hard to get a start in a career. The American unemployment rate for millennials in 2013 was 13%, which is almost 80% higher than the overall American unemployment rate.
You're fired. You're fired. You're fired.
Okay, but we need money coming in every week. We need jobs. Wouldn't you rather have a fishing pole than a fish?
I would rather have $60,000, honestly.
No, Michael's right. Jobs are safer.
Millennials are drowning in debt from the demands of higher education, making this generation overeducated and underemployed. A study conducted by the American Psychological Association looked at the stress levels of four generations and found that millennials are the most stressed, claiming that 52 of millennials reported lying awake at night in the previous month due to stress. The largest difference they found was that millennials are stressed about work, money, and job stability, whereas baby boomers were just stressed about health issues. A survey conducted in 2015 looked at how each generation perceives themselves. The survey showed that millennials were by far the most critical generation compared to older generations. Millennials might be more aware of their actions and impact environmentally, making them the most critical. This could also be another factor contributing to stress of the generation, their awareness of problems and the pressure to improve and be responsible. Millennials clearly aren't naive and actually as self-absorbed as the older generations may think. Along with being most critical, millennials also had the most amount of perceived votes for their generation in the categories of idealistic, entrepreneurial, and environmentally conscious. All three of these qualities could also be contributing factors that lead to an increased stress level. If millennials perceive themselves as idealistic, entrepreneurial, and environmentally conscious, there's a lot of pressure they're putting on themselves to achieve and succeed, all while being the generation with the largest debt and highest unemployment rates. Another study shows that millennial women might also have reason to be more stressed than men. With more encouragement these days for women to enter the workforce, this can cause an even greater stress for working mothers, with 51% of women with young children say that being a working parent has made it harder for them to advance in their career. Another study in 2017 shows that millennials held the largest living generation size, yet have the smallest number of households, meaning they are still living with their parents. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, millennials have the largest number of households living in poverty than any other generation. This table here is only looking at people aged 25 to 34, and you can see the difference between the years of 1987, 2003, and 2017. It's comparing the total number of population in that age group versus how many people owned a house during that time period. As you can see, in 1987, 45.5% of people aged 25 to 34 owned a house, versus in 2003 it was 49%, and 2017 is at the lowest of 39% of the population aged 25 to 35 own a house themselves.
Some of the main stressors in my life currently would be my course load for school, as I'm a fourth-year university student. With that, it comes a lot of attention for assignments as well as group work, as well as having a field placement. I also currently have a job, so trying to balance having a job and going to school is often difficult, as well as trying to have a social life on the side of that. My second stressor would probably be getting a job in the future. I am graduating in May, and finding a job in my field has always been a stressful situation to think of because it's hard to get entry-level positions, even though we have graduate degrees. The third stressor in my life probably is the fact that I do not live in Ontario. I'm from Alberta, so all my family and friends are back in Alberta, and I have to fly home and back in order to see them. So it's very expensive. So keeping my job, trying to figure out school, as well as being able to afford to go see them during the holidays.
Financial and school, and they kind of go hand in hand. I have been out of high school since 2010. That's when I graduated, and it's just been school after school after school after school, and not knowing job field security at all of the programs that I went to. I went to a few different programs, didn't complete any because job security, and then my mental health was getting worse. Also have an accumulation of OSAP debt, and because I'm now at Durham and I'm taking a compressed course, I'm doing 3 years in 2, so there's very little time for work, and what work I can do is a few hours here and there, so it's definitely a struggle financially, especially with Charlie, my dog, house dog,